All right. Hey, my friends, and welcome to today's episode where I want to talk about healing from the inside out versus healing from the outside in, and why the only way that you're really going to reach the planes of healing that you want to reach are if we go from the inside out versus the outside in. And oftentimes, why even working from the outside in is that very paradigm itself often keeps you stuck and really prevents you from really ever reaching the results that you're looking for. So, I want to dive into that today. So, before we do, if you don't know me, my name is Matt Codde, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Restored Minds. And if you are struggling on your journey to really get to where you want to go and break the loop and take back control of your life and start living from trust, I have some resources to help you on your journey. I have them linked down in the notes below, or you can head over to restoredminds.com and explore the resources available for you as well. And also, real quick, if you benefit from the show, if you like this content, please help us out by liking, subscribing, and leaving a nice review on iTunes and Spotify. So let's dive in. So healing from the inside out, what does that mean? Because I think it's a catchy term, right? Used by a lot of people, and it sounds very it's very magnetizing, right? It's like, yeah, like we intuitively know that this is what we want, right? And a lot of times we think that we're doing this, but we're still working from the outside in. So when it comes to fear, the single most shifting paradigm that I think you can operate from when it comes to working through something like fear, anxiety, again, panic attacks, right? Anything really on the psychological stress spectrum. So it could be, again, OCD, it could be, again, chronic pain, it could be uh, general anxiety phobias, even high levels of stress like derealization and depersonalization. The single biggest shift you can have is to begin to work from fear inside. And what I mean by that is most people, consciously or unconsciously, assume that fear is something outside of you that happens to you. So again, I'm afraid of this thing outside of me, right? Simple as the boogeyman, or heights, spiders, right? Snakes, right? This idea that fear exists and the cause of fear is external, right? So I had this what if thought about this idea, right? It could be a disease, could be salvation, it could be, again, sex, romance, right? What if I become harmful one day? What if I do this one day, right? I mean, any of the themes that you have seen out there, the external working model and paradigm is that idea, that thought, that theme, that thing external of me causes my fear. And when you work at it from that plane, what happens is that your life becomes about controlling the external, and then ultimately mitigating the internal, right? You work from the outside inward. And if you do this, this model itself will always indirectly just keep you stuck in one variation or another. And people will falsely convince themselves that they're improving because they may notice a mitigation in symptom from time to time, but they're never truly, again, ascending into a different plane of existence. They're just mitigating and kind of staying in the same plane and mitigating symptoms as they come. That's not recovery. That's not healing. Okay. Fear, the real step to overcoming fear in any aspect of your life, right, is first, I think it's important to drop a certain level of label, because we've come up with all these varying labels that I think become counterproductive, right? So someone might be saying, oh, well, you got to understand I have contamination OCD, and that's led to agoraphobia. So when I go out in public, I have panic attacks, and I also get social anxiety, and this. So the idea is fear is always caused outside of me. It's caused when I go out of the house. It's caused when I go in social situations. It's caused when I touch a doorknob, because the perception is that you notice it in these situations, so you indirectly or you falsely make the connection that that's the cause. The reality is fear is within. Fear is a an emotional field within your consciousness. And in order to not confront it there, we project it onto the external, onto these ideas in the mind, right? To external objects like doorknobs, to environment settings like outside of our house, or the freeway, or social situations, right? None of these things individualistically cause fear. And we know that because a true cause and effect relationship is cause and effect every time. So for instance, if touching a doorknob or going outside of your house causes anxiety, it would cause anxiety for everyone, and it would have caused anxiety for the entire duration of your lifetime. But most of you at some point can think back to a time where this thing did not cause fear, right? There was a point, a turning point, an onset, if you will, of this experience. And so if this was the cause of fear, it always would have caused you fear, and it always will cause you fear. And we know that not to be true. We also know that it would cause everyone else fear because it would be a cause and effect thing, right? So you begin to shift the way you look at fear altogether. You stop labeling it and compartmentalizing it into all these ideas that reinforce the idea that fear is outside of you. And you really begin to embrace the idea that fear is within me. I hold a lot of fear in my system. What happens is because your body wants to be liberated from a lot of these lower emotions that we carry and hold because we don't know how to let them go, your psyche creates triggers that bring up the emotion, or you experience triggers that bring up the emotion, right? And your psyche, again, brings up the emotion itself to the surface, and we make the false connection that the event caused the emotion when really the emotion is coming up to really release. And if we carry a lot of fear in our system, we're going to notice that more and more things seem to trigger, quote unquote, it, when really that's actually the system itself attempting to release. Totally different way of understanding it. And then you begin to understand, when you look at it from that model, that paradigm, that fear is within me, and that's the only place it actually exists, and my job is to learn to confront it. What healing from within is actually turning inward to confront the emotions that you're storing, the emotions that you're holding on to, not just fear, but fear, shame, guilt, right? Apathy, depression, right? Envy, pride, anger, rage, desire, right? These lower emotional fields that create suffering. When we're in these fields, they are the block of the inner peace that exists behind all of it. And what true healing is when you, and this is so why I'm making the argument in this episode, that if you work externally, if you work on the projection, whatever that theme is, whatever you tell yourself is the cause of your fear outside of you, you're always going to stay stuck, because then what's going to happen is you're going to work on that projection. You're going to, set up a special hierarchy to work on that specific fear. And all of a sudden that's going to desensitize a bit, and you're not going to be as activated by it. And because you never addressed fear within, it's just going to project onto something else. It's the very same thing. Like if I'm at a movie theater and I'm like, oh, I don't like the movie that's on the screen, so I'm going to burn the screen down. And the projector just shifts to a different screen. Oh, I don't like the movie on this screen either, I'm going to burn the screen down. It's literally like working at it like that. If you never address the projector, which is you, your own consciousness, your own tank, you're always going to, you're going to keep yourself stuck because you're never working at the correct problem. You're never really addressing fear itself. You're addressing these projections. That's the issue that most people run into, is that they get told by their therapists, by counselors, by their doctors to, again, work at fear from this external model. And no one ever questions the efficacy of this. This is why people perpetuate ideas that like OCD and anxiety are these chronic conditions that you're going to have the rest of your life. And that would be true if you worked at it from the outside in model, because you're just always going to find a new projection to latch your fear onto. But then you actually talk to people who have recovered, and what recovery is not the that I don't experience fear, is that I've gained the capacity within to transcend it. And when I say transcend it, it means that my default state is that I no longer live from the plane of fear, is that I live from higher emotional states, higher fields, if you will, right? Depending on how you like to compartmentalize this into language for yourself. It's like higher levels of consciousness, higher levels of energy. It's all really the same thing. It's like when you live from a state of peace, and your dominant state is peaceful, and your dominant state is neutral, or your dominant state is acceptance. Again, these aren't things that you do. They are states of being, just the same way fear is. Fear is a state. And when you are fighting against the very emotion by trying to push it down and get rid of the symptom and do this and mitigate it and whatever, you stay in that state. So recovery is not the mitigation of symptoms and saying, oh, I'm getting better because this thing doesn't trigger me that much because I desensitized it, but now this whole new thing does. You're not getting better. It's just bouncing. It's just shifting a projection. Getting better is literally learning to work from the inside out. And it's not just with the emotion, but it's also the container, the beliefs that you carry that drive that emotion, right? The identity structures you have. And when you work at yourself from this level, that is where true transformation happens. When you talk to people who have really shifted out of living in the realm of fear, these are the things that always come up. And then there's other people that will tell you how to manage really well, and they will have a certain collective set of ideas that usually they share. And the question you have to ask yourself is what result you're really looking for. If you're looking to manage effectively and cope, follow people who suggest and listen to what they do, right? Because you're going to hear that the ideas that are suggested are totally different. Because to get different outcomes, there has to be two different complete strategies and pathways. But if you're looking for true freedom, and I mean true recovery, healing, right, where your dominant state is so radically different that you could actually look at your past fears and actually question why you ever even worried about that. It's not because you desensitize to the idea itself. It's because you transcend the energy of fear itself, the emotional state of fear itself, where your dominant emotional state is so high that you have the capacity for a wave of fear to come up and essentially not flinch in the face of it. That's really what we're talking about when we're talking about recovery. And so that is what we're talking about when we say healing from the inside out versus the outside in. It's a paradigm that you're operating from. And I want to suggest from a loving place that if you haven't gotten the results that you're really pursuing, that you intuitively know that are available to you, it's most likely because you're operating from the incorrect paradigm. It's not really a matter of effort. It's a matter of the way that you're going about this is indirectly preventing you from ever getting there. And I just want to offer that and as a suggestion. So it's something to consider, right? So hopefully this is helpful for you and something that gets you something to think about and maybe consider, a different perspective on this. And with that, if you're benefiting from this, we have some resources again linked below. You can head over to restoredminds.com. And again, I hope you have a wonderful day and a great week, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Hey there, thanks so much for watching that episode. If you found it helpful, we have some links to some other episodes that we think you might like as well. And if you're looking for help on your journey to recovery from fear, stress, and anxiety, either check out the links in the notes or head over to restoredminds.com. Thank you, and talk to you soon.